Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Today, I'm ranking my top 15 Cobra Kai episodes. I couldn't exactly nail it down to 10, so I decided to do 50 with some 5 honorable mentions that just couldn't make the cut. So, without further ado, I got a light over there, so that's why the lighting looks a little different, because I'm filming at night, because I couldn't film it earlier, but whatever, besides the point. So, now I'm gonna just say, share your ranking in the comments below. Tell me what you thought of your favorite Cobra Kai episodes. Tell me your top 5, top 10, top 15. You can rank all of them. You can tell me your favorite, whatever. Everything works. So, without further ado, let's get into this. So, I got my list here. Starting with some honorable mentions. We have Season 3, Episode 9, Feel the Night. Well, they're not in random order. They're in random order. But so, this one, it's a great episode. This one, Ali shows up. I think that's great. But it just didn't quite make the cut. Now we have Season 5, Episode 2, Mole. I think this one was a great episode. This is probably the best one of all of these, maybe. Best or second best, for sure. I thought it had a bunch of great moments with Chosen and Terry Silver, building up that rivalry a bit. That will work for me. Next up, we have Season 3, Episode 8, The Good, the Bad, the Badass. I think it's tied with Episode 9, pretty much. And overall, I think both of these are good episodes. I just don't think it was as good enough to make the cut. Next one is going to be Season 4, Episode 8. There's a bunch of Episode 8s. The next two are all Episode 8s. I didn't realize that until I finally put it together. This is another really good one, Party Time. It's between this one and Season 5, Episode 2. Which one's my favorite? I think I like this one a little bit more. There's a bunch of great moments. It sets up the whole thing with Terry and, Stingray. There's the whole party sequence with the prom, and that there was a bunch of great stuff. And this is when Kreese starts to sort of soften up a little bit. And then the final one is Season 1, Episode 8, Bolting. There's just a bunch of fun Cobra Kai trainings, whole beginning sequence that reminds me of Rocky, where Miguel is doing some training and stuff. So, and there's some training with Daniel and Robbie out in the forest. Yeah, so great episode. But yeah, let's get into the actual list. Starting things off at number 15, it's going to be Season 2, Episode 3, Fire and Ice. I don't know why this episode gets some hate. I know it's shorter than a bunch I think this might be the shortest episode in the show. It's only 25 minutes long. But there's a bunch of great moments. Johnny posting stuff on the internet, hash brown Cobra Kai, and send it to the internet. I think there's just a bunch of great moments with Johnny in this episode, and Miguel as well. I also I think this is when they kind of finally start to build Miyagi-Do up. Even the moment, I think this is the episode where Dimitri gets punched in the face. I think that's this episode, or is that next episode? I don't remember. I believe that's this episode, but whatever. There's also obviously the Valley Fest thing at the end of it. I thought that was just a lot of fun. And overall, I just enjoyed this episode. This one was fun. It was just fun. Cobra Kai is best. And I think it was the perfect one to sort of kick this list off. Number 14 is going to be Season 3, Episode 2, Nature vs. Nurture. This is another one I really enjoyed. There's some great moments. Cobra Kai training with the little snake and rat things to see who would budge and not do it and who would do it. And then there's the people that are getting kicked out of Cobra Kai. There's that. But I think the reason why I put this one this high on the list is because all the Johnny and Daniel stuff, where they're heading out to go find Robbie and whatever, and I think there's just a bunch of great moments had with that. So yeah, I thought that was so great. I think there's some Johnny and Robbie stuff in this episode, I believe, and yeah. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun with it because I think the Johnny and Daniel stuff with the references to Tango and Cash. I haven't actually seen the movie, but And overall, I just thought they handled this whole episode just very well. There's a couple things that don't quite work. I think the whole stuff with Cobra Kai with Kreese and that doesn't work. I think this is when the Kreese flashbacks start, and I think this is when they were pretty good, I'd say. I don't remember exactly. There's a whole bunch of timeline stuff that I don't remember at Season 3, but whatever. I think this is one of my favorite episodes of Season 3 for sure. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I just don't think it's as good as the other ones, the next 13 or whatever. But there's just a lot of great moments. I think there's the Johnny Miguel moment near the end of the episode where he is pissed at Johnny because he taught him some of the wrong lessons according to him. And I think gut-wrenching moments. So, great episode. Number 13 is going to be Season 5, Episode 8, Taikai. I thought this was a great episode. There was a lot of fun here between Johnny and the Sekai Taikai sort of leader, or guy that runs it, I guess. I thought that there was just a lot of fun to be had with that little interaction where he's also big Rocky fan, Drago, in the middle of the episode. And overall, the fights near the end and the fact that Silver bribed the ref, kind of bringing back a little plot line that was there at the end of Season 4, that was great. Just great moments here. As I said, the fights themselves are great. All the training bits until the fights are great, especially on the Miyagi-Do side of things, where they're trying the Screaming Eagle, which have we seen that yet? I'm not 100% sure. So it builds well, and but my only reason why this line isn't higher, because I do really enjoy this episode. I kind of wish they spent a little bit more time on this tournament, building up to it as they're training throughout the last maybe 3 episodes, and then episode 8 and 9 is them training with some other tensions there, and then this episode is how it pays off and then leads into the next season where the Sekai Taikai tournament actually takes place. So I just wish that was the case, and then this season would have been a lot cleaner if that was the case, but still great episode. Number 12 is going to be Season 4, Episode 2, First Learn Stand. A lot of great things in this episode. Not as much happens in this episode. The Cobra Kai stuff is not fully kicked into gear because Terry Silver's not in Cobra Kai yet. You have the Pain plotline where he's getting bullied by none other than Daniel LaRusso's son, which sets up a lot of interesting dynamics that are played on throughout the next couple of seasons. You also have obviously Johnny and train Daniel, and Daniel train Johnny, which just makes it all fun. Johnny learned to appreciate Miyagi, don't learn the wax on, wax off, and finally just starting to get used to it. And then Daniel teaching Johnny a little bit of aggression, and then it all culminates at this hockey sequence where Daniel strikes first against this hockey team. Other than those two main plot lines, not much really happens. Not much between Miguel and Sam or Hawk and any of those characters. Not much at the school. Not much teenage politics or whatever. But I think both the Pain plot line and the Johnny train Daniel, Daniel train Johnny plot lines work for this episode, and it makes for a very fun episode. Before this season it didn't really kick into gear until a bit later, so it's just fun to have a bit of. So it's but this episode really, I do think was great. But it didn't really, the problem is it did not much really happen because there's no Terry Silver really, because the season didn't really kick into gear until episode 5. For me, number 11 is going to be Season 3, Episode 5. On the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot that happens in this episode. You have Daniel going to Japan, which I think is the heart of this episode and why it's so fun. You have the whole plot line with Johnny and Miguel. They go out to see the whole, Twisted Sister concert, which not my favorite band out there, but I think they're pretty good. They have some good songs. I think I Wanna Rock, Burn in Hell, and what's the other one? I can't remember its name, but yeah, they have a few good songs out there. So overall, this episode is just so fun. The Cobra Kai training side of things, I don't remember exactly what happened there, but yeah. You have Miyagi-Do starting to get back together because the Cobra Kai's attacking them at work and committing felonies. This is when the season really kicks into motion. It's the one season I feel like that kind of kicks into motion right from the beginning. But really, this episode is when it fully kicks into motion. Because you have the whole sequence at the end where Hawk breaks Dimitri's arm, and the whole fight there is pretty good for the most part. And I think this is when things start to change, where the tension starts to get a bit higher, and it's a bit of a shifting point in the season. So I think this is the best episode, Season 3, which means that Season 3 has no more episodes left, but we're in the top 20%. So again, this is why I wanted to not nail it down to 10, because would have been no Season 3 episodes. So it would have just pretty much been Season 1-4 throughout, which, spoiler alert, that's most of what it covers. That's 60% of my entire top 10. Besides the point, let's move on. Off the top 10 is going to be Episode 10 of Season 5, Head of Snake. I thought this was a good finale. As I said, it's a good finale. I think, Season 3 Episode 10's not on here. So, and overall, I think the reason why this one's up here is because as an episode, this one's hard to place, because as an episode, a lot of issues. First one is that the cliffhanger at the end didn't make much sense because he was going to get released out the next day, or a couple couple of days after or something. And also, it's weird that Cobra Kai's finally over, and it just doesn't set up enough for season 6 that I'm that excited for. And also, the Mike Barnes stuff didn't make much sense. But take that out of it. You got 3 amazing fights, or really actually 4. You have the Chosen versus Terry. That one's fantastic. Johnny versus all the senses, and then he throws them down. That one's great. Daniel using Terry's tricks against him is great. And the Cobra Kai taking their lesson that they learned in episode 7 about protecting the egg or whatever, and then they learn about that and then use that against Cobra Kai to protect the iPad so that the video can upload. There's just great moments, but then the satisfying moments after that with Sam and Miguel, not that satisfying. But there are interesting things like what are the characters like Pain, what are they going to do in the next season? So it has me worried for the next season, but as an episode, it was a pretty satisfying finale. As I said, the fights are all great. There's some great character moments, some funny character moments. It has everything you need in a classic Cobra Kai finale, except one thing. Having a great cliffhanger for the next season. Every other season had great cliffhangers. This season did not. It's a little frustrating. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Season 1, Episode 7, All Valley. This is kind of like Season 2, Episode 3. I just enjoy this episode. It's fun to see Miguel and Sam having a fun time while they're at the whole arcade thing somewhere in the valley, I guess. And then on the other side of things, they both of them had like a score. I think that's one of my favorite Johnny Miguel moments where they both are very happy because Johnny is entered in the tournament and Miguel is finally got his girl, and then I think it pays off in episode 8 where they're talking about where Johnny's talking about his perspective of Daniel Russo. So yeah, that stuff is great, and overall it's just a fun episode. What happens? Don't remember much about the Cobra Kai characters themselves and them in the fight. This episode's on the shorter side, but just a fun episode. It just sets up some fun things, especially between Daniel and Johnny. Their sort of rivalries kind of coming up as the tournament comes up because Daniel's training Robbie and Johnny doesn't realize it, so Robbie's probably gonna be the one to fight Miguel in the end. So it just sets up a lot of great things that actually have me interested. I don't remember what was happening on the Cobra Kai side of things. I guess they were they're giving tips to tell for Miguel to get Sam or something. I don't know. Overall, I think this episode, I really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 8 is going to be episode 10 of season 2, the finale, No Mercy. This is a very kind of mixed episode for me. It's always been because there are probably the highest highs of the show and some middle lows, if you want to call them that, not the lowest lows, because the highest highs, obviously the school fight is probably the best part of the entire show, that or the season 4 finale, but there's some odd stuff. First, I'll talk about the bad stuff first. The character stuff, bit odd, because I'm talking about not like the Miguel and Robbie stuff, I'm not talking about that, so I'm looking at like Tori legit wants to kill Sam. And even based on what they've set up between the rivalry, it just doesn't make much sense. I guess there's the whole Miguel thing, but still, it's a bit... Really? It doesn't make that much sense. But then also, there's I think the whole thing where Tori makes me out to a bit of a weird plot, and class just stops out of nowhere just for this fight, and it's just like, what? I didn't really care about it much the first watch, but then I noticed it the second watch, and it just didn't make much sense to me. But I think but excuse those small bits. Everything else, I think this is, or is that episode 6 where Led Zeppelin's show? I think that's episode 6. Where Kreese takes back Cobra Kai because it's apparently his. And I think what this shows is that the school fight has consequences, and that alone is what makes this episode great. It's just, I think it comes to great conclusion of the season where Johnny doesn't have Cobra Kai anymore. He's back to kind of where he was in the first episode. Miguel's injured. Robbie's on the run. Tori's suspended and in a bad place. Sam's in a heartbroken place because she feels bad for Miguel. Daniel's kind of forced by Amanda to stop doing the Cobra Kai stuff or karate stuff. So yeah, this episode had repercussions for the next season, but there are issues. I'm not gonna not acknowledge those. Number 7 is gonna be season 1, episode 10, Mercy Part 1. Until I did rewatch this one again just to make sure I'm right on my thoughts for this one, cause I think it's not the most satisfying finale, but it's not really supposed to be, because you have all the thing where Cobra Kai won, but they didn't win fairly exactly because they're both rough because Miguel went for Robbie's broken arm or sprained muscle, whatever it is. He fought dirty, and then Hawk, full on got disqualified by tagging him, similar to Bobby Brown from the Karate Kid. And overall, there's just some great moments throughout this episode, the Miguel and Sam stuff, and it just really sets up a bunch of stuff for the next season. Kreese coming back at the end, that was a nice little note to end on. The only real problem I have with the first one, as I said, it's not the most satisfying because Cobra Kai didn't win fairly, but there's just great character moments as Johnny realizes that this was a big mistake. They're just so great. That's just great stuff. And I just love this episode. It's a great finale. I like it a little bit more than the season 2 one just because it was just a better written episode. My only real problem is it just a lot of the stuff wasn't continued well in season 2. Like what would happen to Miguel Sam relationship resolved right away, and Miyagi just starting resolved pretty well, not right away, but more or less. Like the idea of it's resolved right away. Just all the cliffhangers were just resolved too quickly in the next season, so it kind of did hurt this episode a little bit. But great episode. Coming in at number 6 is going to be Season 4, Episode 9, The Fall. I thought great and well-handled episode. I thought it was a great kickoff to the All Valley tournament where every match matters. Every match has its purpose. You're rooting for all of the characters. You have situations where some characters are put kind of, not exactly under stress, but like every match matters. Demetri going against losing Robbie. You have Hawk beating Kyler. You have Miguel deciding not to do anything. Just some great and satisfying moments. And no real issues. I just don't think it's just not my favorite. And if they ended on this episode with Miguel and the thing as the cliffhanger, which I thought was funny because I actually made sure to look that this is the right episode. And that would have been very funny if that was how it ended, and then we have to go and wait a year for that to be clipped. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, as I said, very well handled. I think all the fights are great, more exciting, and I think they're better handled than they were in season 1. Even though season 1's fights were handled very well, and I think the singer coming in made it fun. The whole the skills competition worked very well. So all of it just well handled. I thought this is a great episode. The top 5 is going to be season 2, episode 6, Take a Right. These next two are tied; they go neck and neck. But I think I just enjoyed season 4, episode blank, just a bit more. So yeah, as I said, love this episode. Just some great moments. Johnny going with his Cobra Kai friends as Tommy is about to die, and he wants to spend one last night. I cannot talk. In the woods. Show must go on playing throughout the whole funeral sequence, and then him getting put in the body bag and voiced over when Kreese saying Cobra Kai never dies and gives a little speech more or less. Just very well. And I think Show Must Go On was it's not my favorite Led Zeppelin song out there, but I think it fit the whole scene and vibe very well. So, as I said, I love this episode. All the sequences like the bar fights, the motorcycle sequences throughout this episode, they were just great moments. No issues whatsoever. I just don't think it was the most exciting episode. There were very well handled things. I thought the Miyagi-Do training, I don't exactly remember what happened, but Demetrius still being annoying, but have we not seen the character ever before? Daniel started teaching the Cobra Kai kids the Miyagi-Do ways is kind of fun. Him going back to Karate Kid Part 3 and bringing up the whole thing where he was under Cobra Kai for a while, and it just made for some interesting scenarios. So I think this episode was very well handled. I just like four others more. That was just season 1 and 4 episodes. So yeah, number 4 is going to be season 4, episode 5, Match Point. I love this episode. This and Take a Right could go neck and neck, but I just enjoyed this episode more. Just seeing the idea of Daniel and Johnny fighting again, and seeing that just was during a tournament now on the whole sparring deck of Okinawa or whatever. That was so fun. I just love that whole bit. There's just so much fun and nostalgia that you could have with it. And like literally, it was just so well handled. No issues with that. I loved all of the stuff with what's it called, with the with Terry sort of taking over and kind of tormenting Daniel. I think that was this episode. Maybe in the next episode. I don't remember. Terry, yeah, as I said, Terry comes in. This is where he becomes really fun and becomes a great character. Him teaching Robbie some stuff. And that's not just the whole Miyagi-Do thing where Donnie and Daniel are again fighting over because they think one of their styles could take the kids, and kids have kind of already learned this lesson, specifically in episode 3, where each of them are starting to appreciate what the other style has to offer, and then but the adults are still in the mindset of my way is the better way, and there's just some profound stuff, and this episode is kind of the ultimate sort of thing of that, I guess. And the most fun part about it is that Johnny's knows how to use Twitter. Miguel's like his only follower. There's just fun stuff, and obviously there's the whole mix of Rocky 3, Rocky 4 thing where he's on the beach playing when Burning Heart by Survivors played, which I think is their best song. Eye of the Tiger is still great, but I thought that song, it just fit the mood so well. So there's just so much fun in that scene, and I just love it every time. I've seen that episode a bunch of times, and even that just whole sequence was just so fun where Johnny's kind of being a little bit of a dick, and he got drunk and went on Twitter. It's just such a fun episode. I love this one. This is when the season kind of shifts a bit. So Eagle Fangs go Eagle Fang, and also Hawk gets his haircut off, which made for a bit of a profound moment and kind of a sort of payback more or less for many things. Yeah, overall, great episode. Coming number 3 is going to be Season 1, Episode 9, Different But Same. Just a very well-handled episode. Johnny and Daniel finally going to car ride together. Him going back to Daniel's old place in Reseda, and then finally having a pool, which is a fun moment, kind of paid off from the Karate Kid with their bit where his mother's kind of teasing. You know what I'm talking about. So overall, I love this episode. All the Johnny and Sam stuff as their breakup, just based on misunderstandings. Johnny finally seeing Robbie. It just set up all of kind of the stuff that have been sort of kind of talked about where Miguel's kind of having second thoughts about Sam because what Johnny said. Robbie's and LaRusso. When does Johnny finally figure that out? When does Miguel break up with Sam and kind of act like Johnny more or less? When does Robbie and Miguel actually meet for the first time? Yeah, there's just a lot of fun stuff that are kind of just paid off in this episode, and the whole thing where at the end, and then the whole thing where Johnny's at lunch and LaRusso's kid. So, yeah. Anyway, just a very fun episode. I love this. Great penultimate episode of the season. Set up everything for the finale so well. And most of it was paid off very well. I love this episode. Number 2 is going to be Season 1, Episode 5, Counterbalance. This has always been my favorite episode of Season 1. This is kind of the transition point where Johnny's finally taking on 2 students. This shows some fun behind that. Now he's taking on Aisha. And at the end, Miguel finally uses Johnny's lessons to beat up all the bullies in the cafeteria. Him also using the cafeteria as kind of his playground. It's my favorite part of the entire season. Just amazing. I also love all the stuff with, I think this whole thing with Daniel and teaching Robbie all this. No, that's later. I think this one Robbie decides to go work for Daniel. I don't remember that whole side of things, but still, I loved all the Johnny and Miguel stuff, and this episode just paid everything off so well. That was set up throughout the beginning of the season, and kind of, as I said, was a transition point. Now Johnny has to take on more students. Now he's become an actual sensei to a bunch of kids, not just this one kid. And just the way everything turned out, it just set up the rest of the season and did a great job at it. Trying to remember exactly what happened with Daniel in this episode. This was post Tom Cole thing, so, and Dick on Billboard. So, trying to remember. Was this the episode where Robbie? Yeah, I think this is one where Robbie, I think, decided to go work for Daniel, and yeah, obviously I think it's fun. So overall, there's a lot of well handled things, and overall great episode. I love this one. I've always loved this one. There's just so many fantastic moments. Miguel in the cafeteria, as I said, amazing fight using his kind of the cafeteria as a sort of playground, and where he uses trays to hit all the guys. It's just great. It's fun. It's kind of funny at times. Just love this episode. Coming in number 1 is going to be Season 4, Episode 10, The Rise. Yeah, I got that right. So, overall, this has probably my two favorite maybe two of my three favorite fights on the entire show, where with Hawk and Robbie, just such an intense fight, especially first watching. I was like, wait, who's gonna win? Because I hadn't seen the episode before, and it was just fantastic. And then there's also the whole thing between Sam and Tori, which is kind of a transition point in the show where Johnny and Daniel both realized that they were wrong because and they used Sam as kind of the point because Sam went to go train with Johnny to learn some other moves, and Daniel's second thoughts about that, but then realizes that one of Mr. Miyagi's most important lessons is learning other styles matter, something like that. I don't know. And so just so profound, and also all the stuff with Terry setting up for season 5. Now Terry's taking over Cobra Kai entirely, and maybe and he definitely has something more than just taking over the valley up his sleeves. So and Miguel, the whole cliffhanger of Miguel in Mexico, Robbie and Johnny kind of solved a lot of their issues for the most part. And the way everything was just set up for the next season was done well. I do think is a little hurt by how season 5 paid off some of the things. Specifically, I'm looking at, what's it called? Terry, the potential of Mike Barnes coming back. It's just wasn't used well. I mean, some of the stuff was paid off very well. Like, I think Terry's schemes were fun and paid off well. I thought Miguel Mexico's, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think it was paid off well. So, a fantastic episode. This is my personal favorite episode of the show. This is when I think the fights are amazing, the intensity was there, the character stuff was there. Just the perfect episode of Cobra Kai. So yeah, that concludes this ranking. Share your ranking in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Share your ranking in the comments below. I'm very interested. I thought this was a good one to end on for the Cobra Kai series. Stranger Things will be coming soon. Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts stuff will be coming soon. Including 3 reviews and all the movies ranked. Maybe a character tier list. Maybe a Bond villain tier list. RoboCop remake review. Reservoir Dogs review. Pulp Fiction review. Yes, I did see it. Maybe Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon review. Maybe the Nick Greyhound. What's it called? The Grey something or whatever. So I think it is just called the Grey. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Never to like, share, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next time.